Hello, welcome to Let's Talk Basketball. Today's video is going to be all about the injuries that happened right before or during the playoffs this season. The first injury I'm going to talk about is with Giannis Antetokounmpo, possibly the most impactful injury that has happened so far throughout the playoffs, where he went up, came down super hard on his tailbone, and ended up with lower back contusions. You could see he was visibly in pain, and he ended up going back to the locker room to get checked out, where he eventually came back to the bench and tried to play for a couple minutes, but found that it was probably just a little bit too painful to continue playing, so he sat the remainder of the game 1, he sat all of game 2, and all of game 3. Now, as I'm recording this, he's playing game 4, and is playing pretty well so far. He's still obviously in pain, but he's playing through it to an exceeding degree. This injury was obviously extremely impactful to his team, just due to the fact that he is an MVP candidate this year, and any team losing a player of that caliber in the hopes of making a large playoff run is obviously going to take a large hit, especially since he's accounting for a large percentage of their overall plays, with his usage rate being really high for this team. It's really hard for any team to take a hit that hard and still be effective on the offensive end of the ball. Talking about the same series, on the other end, the Miami Heat have experienced 2 large injuries to their overall cast of players, with Tyler Hero going out early in game 1 with a broken hand, which has sidelined him for the remainder of the playoffs, and then also with a torn patellar tendon for Victor Oladipo that has also taken him out for the remainder of the season. And that one's extremely sad just due to the fact that he's battled so many season-ending injuries already, and this just feels like another one tacked on top. And so I'm wishing him good luck in his recovery. And I think it was Reggie Miller during the broadcast where both the Giannis and the Tyler Hero injury occurred, that said that the Tyler Hero injury is possibly more impactful than the Bucks losing Giannis. And although I don't necessarily agree with that, I will say that it's not entirely untrue. Tyler Hero accounts for a lot of their offensive possessions, and so losing a player like that is obviously going to hurt. I don't think he was fantastic on the defensive end. That's kind of more Giannis, where the Bucks have taken both an offensive and defensive hit. But both of these teams have been majorly affected by all of these injuries. The next injury I'm going to talk about occurred during the Grizzlies versus the Lakers series, where Ja Morant went up for a dunk and came down very hard on his fingers and also his wrist, where it came out after the game that he ended up with a bruised tendons in his hand. He ran back to the locker room, eventually came back out with his hand padded up, sat on the bench, stayed out for the remainder of that game and the next game. Now, with all that being said, he did come back in game 3 and played insanely well. A lot of people were questioning whether he was going to score effectively, whether he was going to pass effectively. And although you could tell that there were struggles in dribbling the ball, as well as he usually had, with him misdribbling and turning over the ball a couple times just due to dribbling, he shot incredibly well from the field with a 13 of 26 field goal percentage, with a 6 of 10 three-point percentage, and a 13 of 14 free throw. And after seeing him play for, I think it was somewhere around 40 odd minutes playing in this pivotal game in the series, it's really hard to kind of expect them to now pull back when they ended up losing that game and they're down 2-1 in the series. It feels like they kind of have to play him. I think they said most of it was pain tolerance and just how much he can put up with. And I think as long as he can put up with the pain, they're going to be playing him as many minutes as he's allowed to play. Before I move off the Grizzlies, I also wanted to just go ahead and mention that Steven Adams is still injured with his knee injury, and he's expected to be out for majority of the playoffs, possibly all of it. And Brandon Clark is still injured with his Achilles injury that's taken him out for the full season. Now I'm going to talk about possibly the most upsetting injuries that have occurred before and during the playoffs this season with the Clippers. Just before the playoffs, Paul George was injured in a game versus the Thunder where he majorly hyperextended his knee, and it sidelined him for multiple weeks, and he's still out for, assuming, the entire first round and possibly the second round. With him possibly coming back in the second round, we don't know yet. But although they are missing Paul George, they're also missing Kawhi. Kawhi played through game 2 through a knee strain and has now sat out game 3, sat out game 4, and he's expected to sit out game 5 with the knee sprain. This is just super upsetting as just a crazy Kawhi and Paul George fan, especially with Russell Westbrook playing as well as he has. He's actually looking the best he has since MVP seasons. And with all of that kind of coming together, seeing this team play at such a high level without Paul George gave me so much hope for them making it past the Suns and making it into the second round, where I think they take the edge over the Nuggets. Now, because of the Kawhi injury, the Clippers ended up losing Game 3 and Game 4 and are now down 3-1 in the series against the Suns, and it's very hard to see them coming back from this, especially since they're going back to the Suns with home court, with the only all-star being Russell Westbrook in the starting lineup. It's very hard to kind of expect them to come back from a 3-1 deficit when it's only happened, I think it's 13 times in NBA history. Another upsetting injury is with Joel Embiid during the Brooklyn Nets versus Philadelphia 76ers series, where he ended up receiving a knee injury that took him out the last game. They still managed to win, so he can kind of rest until the second series. I think Doc Rivers said that he's at 50% at best chance of coming back at the start of the second series, which is just very upsetting, especially since he kind of has a history of being the player that gets injured during the playoffs, and the team just isn't nearly as good without him. And that's kind of the case. Granted, they still beat up on the Nets. It wasn't super hard, especially with them being down 3-0, but they did not look the same. A lot of their offense runs through him, a lot of their defense runs through him, and so it's another situation where with Giannis, the Bucks struggled a lot. Again, losing an MVP caliber player is going to have a big blow to your team, both offensively and defensively. And I think the last injury I'm going to talk about actually just happened. It was just kind of announced today as I'm recording this. De'Aaron Fox has been ruled a fractured index finger, which is possibly taking him out of Game 5. He's currently listed as doubtful. They haven't ruled it out, but that is just extremely sad. For this series to be this close and just this good of a series where it's just the best so far during the playoffs, and it losing one of the most pivotal players on the team that has been to the playoffs for the first time in 16 and a half years, it's very sad that it kind of ended up this way. Now, they haven't listed him out. He's still possible to play, but it's hard for a player to receive a fractured finger on their shooting hand and still be able to play the game as effective as they were, both dribbling, shooting, passing, just as an overall engine for the team, especially someone who holds the ball as much as he does. Okay, sorry I kind of ran through that. This video is not supposed to be super long. I'm kind of just making it a little quick, not putting any stats on, just kind of trying to get it out there so it's out there and I'm not having to worry about it as much. I kind of took my time getting to this video. So yeah, thank you for watching if you did. I should have a video coming out pretty soon about just overall games that I've enjoyed watching, players that I think are really impactful so far. And so yeah, see ya.